Hey brother! Just a heads up, there will be spoilers in this video for Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. You have been warned. Then for as much as all of the marketing would have you believe that Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald is about Grindelwald committing crimes, which mostly he isn't, or about Newt and his fantastic beasts, or about Dumbledore and his fantastic beard, or even about Credence and his fantastic new snake friend, it isn't. It's weirdly, actually, largely about Leta Lestrange. Maybe not in screen time, but when it comes to the story, yeah. Her engagement drives most of Newt's plot. The finale takes place in her family's tomb. We get no fewer than 3 flashbacks dedicated to her. She's the one who holds all the secrets. She definitely gets the most character development of anyone in the whole movie, and so naturally, she dies. Yeah, I agree. It's frustrating, or at least I thought it was, until I started thinking about it, and I think I've come to the conclusion that Leta Lestrange's death is the most significant death in the entire wizarding world since Lily Potter. Guys, we have to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Kano. Kano is the creator of this particularly cool product, which is a Harry Potter coding wand. Check this out, hold on. Aha! Please open more carefully. This DIY kit shows you how to build a Bluetooth coding wand, learn to code with step-by-step creative challenges, and make magic. And I'm not gonna lie, when we opened this up at the office, it was awesome. I mean, we have a lot of wands here, but this one actually kind of works. I mean, it was ridiculously intuitive to set up and a blast to work with, and we were like changing owl colors almost immediately. Growing up, I was always the kind of kid who learned better by doing a thing, and it was especially better if I was fascinated with that thing, and this is kind of both. It's Harry Potter meets technology. And after the simple setup, you can put your skills to the test with 70 custom challenges inspired by the wizarding world. The Harry Potter Kano coding kit works with most Windows or Mac OS X laptops and is available now at its best price of the year at $79.95. Personally, we're having a blast with it, but I think this is gonna be an awesome gift for kids who are obviously gonna love playing with the wand while they're sort of secretly learning how to code stuff as well. Like, if I knew how to do this stuff when I was a kid, I can only imagine how much better I would be at computers now. So please go check it out. All the information on how to get your own and get started is in the description down below. Okay, so back to Leta Lestrange and her untimely death. Here is a quick refresher of how it happened. Grindelwald has called a rally to try and recruit people to his cause, and it's going to happen at the Lestrange family tomb, a totally normal place to have a rally. Like, red flag number 1, like, oh, meeting, cool. Where? Huh, a graveyard? Where are we gonna sit? Because tombs are also a totally normal place for an amphitheater, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many concerts I've been to at grave sites or cemeteries, or wait, no, yes I can. It's 0 because it's totally weird. What is this for? Why does this place even exist? Also, actually, can we just point out that he gives his speech in English and he calls a rally in Paris where they speak French? Why are all Harry Potter villains terrible at throwing events? Whatever, not the point. The point is that at some point during the rally, one of the Aurors in the crowd gets a little too excited and kills one of the people attending the rally. And then Grindelwald's all like, whoa, did you guys see how terrible Aurors are and why the government needs to be overthrown? You should all disapparate and go spread the word. At which point everyone decides to disapparate except for a select few people, like mostly just the main cast of the movie. At which point Grindelwald conjures some crazy new black fire with a new spell, Protego Diabolica, which, as far as we can tell, pretty much traps everyone in the amphitheater. He tells them they can either join him or die. And he, like, seriously means it. Anyone who tries to apparate after he casts the flame gets, like, zapped out of the air by the flame and dies. The only safe way out of that theater is to apparate from within the circle. And if you are truly committed to Grindelwald's cause, you're able to walk through the flames, no problem. But if you try and lie and just sort of, like, falsify your intent or your commitment's a little on edge, you're dead. So it really is go bad and really mean it or die. Which leaves the main cast in a pretty sticky situation, and we see most of the main pairings divide. Queenie and Credence both decide to pass through the flames, leaving behind Jacob and Nagini. But then there's Leta. She is somehow able to get Grindelwald's attention just by yelling at him, and he stops whatever he's doing, crosses through the flames and approaches her, tells her she can join him. He even gives her hand a little tug, clearly giving her a choice. And what she chooses is to attack the skull hookah thing being held by Rosier, which seems to disrupt the spell of the fire and allow the others to disapparate without fear of being killed by the flames. But it's a costly move. Everyone else can escape, but Leta dies. And this is significant, I think, because of what happens right before she dies. First, we see Newt looking at Leta, then we see Leta looking back up at the brothers. She says, "I love you," and then it cuts to Theseus. Who specifically she's talking to is never revealed, but those are her last words before she dies. Who is she supposed to be talking to? Is it Newt or Theseus or both of them? I think it's like shot intentionally to be confusing so you don't know. And it leaves us with a pretty big question. I mean, her final words are, "I love you." Those are three pretty powerful words, and we don't get to know who she said them to before she dies. Like, what a weird mystery to leave hanging out there. Because like, even if we find out later on who she was talking to, well, so what? She's dead now, right? I mean, unless loving someone and dying for them casts some sort of protective... Oh, I remember now. That's what the entire Harry Potter book series is all about. Yeah, remember that tiny scene at the beginning of The Philosopher's Stone where Voldemort goes to kill baby Harry and then his mom sacrifices himself for him and then Voldemort's spell backfires and he dies and then J.K. Rowling became the most successful author of all time? Right, no, I'm sure you don't need much of a refresher on that particular subject, but so the question we're asking today is, did Leta's death cast sacrificial protection, and if so, was it on Newt or Theseus? Sacrificial protection is ancient magic, and as we know, is an extremely powerful counter charm that is very long lasting, that prevents the beneficiary of it from being even as much as touched by the murderer of the victim. So in the case of Harry, Harry is the beneficiary, Lily is the victim, Voldemort is the murderer, and Professor Quirrell is just sort of a pile of ash. But what happens in that house is considered to be miraculous because it's the first time anyone has ever survived the killing curse. And to put the cherry on top, it also ends the first Wizarding War. And while it might seem pretty cut and dry as to how it happens, I feel like it deserves a little bit more explanation because one of the major criticisms of this particular spell is, are you telling me that no other person has ever died for their kid ever? Like, why didn't James's death protect Lily and Harry from dying? Both are actually pretty good questions and worthy of an explanation. So here's how it works. First of all, whoever is the victim in this scenario must choose to sacrifice themselves willingly and must do it out of pure, deep love. And the choosing part is where things get really tricky, but it does help explain why James's death didn't protect Lily and Harry the same way Lily's death protected Harry. Because you can obviously argue that James would have and willingly did die for his family. But the difference is James wasn't given the option to choose. Voldemort was always going to kill him. Yes, he still gets in the way, but Voldemort never offers him the choice to live. Killing Lily, on the other hand, is not part of his plan because, of course, Snape asked him to spare her. And because of that, Lily is given the option to live. Voldemort even offers it to her several times. And that is what makes her death so much more significant, because if we can just push pause on that moment for a second, here's what Lily's options really were. Either Voldemort kills your husband and your son and you live, or Voldemort kills your husband and your son and you die. And because she doesn't know that dying is going to cast sacrificial protection, she must know that just getting in between Voldemort and Harry isn't really gonna change anything. Like, Harry's gonna die either way. So the obvious and easy choice is to choose not to die because either way, the outcome is the same. And yet, she chooses to die anyway, which does change the outcome. Like, boom, that's the spell. Honestly, I'm really glad I had to write the script to explain it to you guys because I've always felt I understood Lily's sacrifice, but like breaking it down and explaining like that, like really explain to me the power of her sacrifice. Harry himself also manages to cast this same spell 17 years later at the Battle of Hogwarts when he chooses to die for everyone else inside the castle. Harry says, "I meant to, and that's what did it. I've done what my mother did. They're protected from you. Haven't you noticed how none of the spells you put on them are binding? You can't torture them. You can't touch them. You don't learn from your mistakes, Riddle, do you?" Harry's situation is very similar to Lily's. Voldemort gives him a time limit, during which Harry could have fled. He could have hid in the castle. He could have showed up and fought, but he doesn't. He shows up and chooses to die. Interestingly though, Harry's results are a little different from his mother's. Maybe because he was dying for a large group of people, or maybe because he didn't really truly die, but instead of like repelling killing curses, it's more like Voldemort's spells just don't last very long on people. But so that brings us back to Leta. Did her death qualify for sacrificial protection? Well, we certainly know she does it out of love. She literally says, "I love you," just before she dies. But does she meet the oh so tricky choice of death? Did she die when she didn't need to? And I think yes, 100% she does. Grindelwald gives her the option to join him and she chooses not to. She did not have to die, but she chooses to anyway. And I think it's important how she chooses to, because she could have run, which also would have killed her. She could have tried to lie, which also would have killed her, but she doesn't do either of those things. Instead, she fights. And at this point, the only potential hiccup I think we have is whether or not we know that Grindelwald was specifically, intentionally trying to kill Newt or Theseus. By which I mean, like, Voldemort was specifically trying to kill Harry so Lily's death protects Harry. Was Grindelwald specifically trying to kill Newt and or Theseus? And again, yes, we absolutely know that he was. Literally the last thing Grindelwald says before Leta intervenes is, "Mr. Scamander, do you think Dumbledore will mourn for you?" And even that line is pretty interesting because once again, you don't know who he's talking to. It could be Newt or Theseus. They're both standing right next to each other. But that said, I think we all totally know which one Grindelwald was talking to and which one Leta said "I love you" to. It has to be Newt. On Grindelwald's end of things, Newt is the one with a special relationship with Dumbledore, and Newt is the one who caught him at the end of the last movie. And on Leta's end of things, literally one day before this, she was visiting Hogwarts at some desk where they'd carved their initials onto the other side, and she was having flashbacks to that one time he took her bow-truckling. Seriously though, bow-truckling, great first date idea. Not to mention Newt is the main character of the franchise, and besides that, who even cares about Theseus anyway? I mean, not even Leta in this photo here. I mean, it's not even surprising Tina thought Newt was engaged to her. I mean, did she even like Theseus? Can you blame Tina for thinking they meant that Scamander in this photo? But so if she did successfully cast sacrificial protection on Newt, what will the effects be? The really impressive thing we know about this spell is that it protects you from being killed by the other person, except that's the one thing we know Newt won't be using the spell for, because Harry is the first and only person to do it. And naturally, as soon as Leta dies, Newt is able to escape, at which point he joins a group of people to fight the oncoming fire dragon. So if he was protected from that, we don't really get to see it. It's certainly possible that it could offer just some simple spell resistance, the same way the Hogwarts army was protected from Voldemort, but really, that doesn't seem very exciting. But certainly it would have to give Newt some kind of advantage over Grindelwald, right? Like maybe he's immune to his visions, or maybe he'll be able to walk through the fire in the future and pretend to be a double agent. Only time will tell, but I for one feel certain that Newt is enjoying some kind of sacrificial protection from Leta, and that we will get to see some sort of cool payoff for it eventually. On top of all that, it would also give Dumbledore the opportunity to observe sacrificial protection sometime in the past, so that in the future he can give Harry a really vague explanation of what happened that night. Ben, my question for you and everyone else is, what do you think? Did Leta's death qualify for sacrificial protection? Did she die for Newt? Did she die for Theseus? Let me know your thoughts in the towel section down below. And guys, I'm gonna give one more shout out to today's sponsor, Kano. Again, I just love the idea that there's something so easy and so cool as this wand to get kids learning how to code at such a young age. It is available at its lowest price ever, $79 $49.95. All the information about that and how to get your own is in the description down below. Guys, thanks as always for watching. Please remember to like this video if you haven't already and subscribe so you don't miss any future Harry Potter action from us. If you want to see how McGonagall was able to show up in Crimes of Grindelwald, you can check out this video right here. Or if you want to see our Dumbledore's Dark Twin theory, you can check out this video right here. But Ben, that's all I've got for you today, man. I will see you in another life, brother.